So let me just start out by saying how delighted I am to have you here with us this morning to discuss a number of topics, anything you would like, including your new recording, Doppler Discoveries, which is a remarkable and delightful new CD. Yeah, I've been enjoying it very, very much. And let me actually ask you again, where are you right now? You're in Munich, right?
Well, before I answer, I would like to thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. It's nice to meet you at last. I have known your handwriting, if you can say so. But now I can see that the face corresponds to what I have seen.
Okay.
Okay, I am in Munich, in Germany. I live here and I have been living here for, well, almost 50 years. And it is my hometown. It has become my hometown, yes.
And where are you from originally?
Originally, I was born in Budapest, in Hungary, where I grew up. And as you may know, a similar situation that we have in the Ukraine now happened in Hungary in 1956. There was a revolt, a revolution against the Russians, but they came back. And this whole situation, political situation right now, it reminds me so much of exactly what I have been living through together with my parents, and which caused that we had to leave the country. So I'm a refugee myself, and I grew up after my 12th year when, at the age of 12 when we left, in Denmark. We went to Denmark and stayed there. So I'm a Danish citizen, even today. Having been here in Germany for so many years, I stayed a Danish citizen because I am so thankful to them, grateful to them for everything they have done for my family and myself. Then later, when I finished my studies, this has nothing to do with music because I studied dentistry.
Okay.
And also finished it as a quite understandable wish of my mother. And then I had played music from childhood already in Hungary and played the flute. And I wanted to see if this could be a living for me. And after finishing my academic studies, I went to Germany to study with Aurèle Nicolet in Freiburg, one of the great flutists unfortunately now, of the past.
Okay.
My other great teacher was Jean-Pierre Rampal, also another well-known character in music and in flute playing. And it was him, he was the one who recommended me to go and study with Nicolet, who was teaching in a music academy in a university, which Rampal didn't do at that time. So it was not possible to get regular lessons from somebody who was more in the airplane than based in a
okay
in the city. Yeah.
Just the other day, on the radio, I heard a recording of Nicolet and a Ravel introduction in Allegro.
Oh, it must be beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, what a piece! What a piece!
Yes.
So, and you are, in terms of your ongoing current performance activities, can you give us a quick overview?
Well, my current activities are, I will not say zero, but very near zero, because the last 2.5 years we have had not quite good time for musicians. Before that, I was a professor for flute playing, first in Cologne, then in Munich. Then I stopped these jobs and I continued my career as flute soloist and chamber musician and giving master classes. But this stopped because there was no way to continue without traveling, without concert performances. That just now starting to get back to normal here in Germany and in Europe. So next week I'm going to a big festival in Spain, and I have just had some concerts. So I have life is somehow starting.
Good.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
And it's of course, for an old musician like me, it's terrible, but it's not as bad as for the young musicians. They have really had a terrible time, especially those who are not members of orchestras and that have to live from concerts. I know many who have changed their profession in this time, and understandable. Yeah, I even have 2 children who are professional musicians, but if they would ask me today what to become, I wouldn't recommend them to be a musician. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
a very good time. Yes.
That's hard. Yeah. And where are your children? Where do they live?
They live in Berlin, and they are members in different big orchestras.
Okay.
They have fortunately had successful careers as well, even in spite of their father being a musician.
I know. My father was an artist. He was a painter, and he used to say to me, "Be anything but not a painter."
Yes.
Don't be.
It makes it hard, but it makes it also easier. Both there are two sides of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, may I ask you about the Dopplers?
Yes.
And also, I guess the better place to start might be to ask you about the Doppler Discoveries CD and what the genesis of that was and how that came about.
Of course, with pleasure, I can tell you about it. I can show the CD, which you might already be able to show yourself, but this is the CD.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing about this is already the cover, because as you may know, and I have prepared it, the original picture, the best known picture of the brothers is here.
Okay.
So we have not put on their clothes, but we have put our heads, exchanged the heads,
okay,
which is possible today with the computer work. And I find it quite funny, and but it shows our great admiration for this couple of flute players, Franz and Karl Doppler. Later, I will tell you a little about their life, but why I found or wanted to record my Doppler discoveries is because in my life I have been quite occupied from time to time with these brothers. I will tell you later how it started, but in the later years, let's say last 4 or 5 years, somehow I got interest again and discovered among the music that I already had some pieces that had never been published and which I thought was good music. But when I found the music, there were only 2 flute parts in one of these, and the piano part or an orchestra part was missing. So this had to be reconstructed. And I had a friend who helped me with this, and we reconstructed. Not too difficult to do, because when you know the Doppler pieces, the piano accompaniment is good, but there is a scheme in it. So you can very well imitate what he would have done, or they would have done. And so one of the pieces we reconstructed. And then the other discovery was that in my, let's say, former life as a musician, I was not so interested in musicology. I thought this was something dry, and the music is the important thing and not what is around the music. But I changed my mind, and I am doing a lot of research. And through this research, I also went to the archives of Schott edition, in which you may know. It's a very big Schott and Sons edition, where many of the pieces of the Doppler brothers and also Doppler Franz himself alone had been published. And I got some letters from Franz Doppler to the editor. And in one of these letters, he talked about opus so-and-so. I knew all these opus numbers, of course, because I knew all the music that has been published. And also at one point he says, yes, I have just sent you my sonata in 4 movements, opus 25. And there I was very eager to know, what does he mean? I don't know any sonata, but I know his opus 25. And his opus 25 is one of the best known pieces of Franz Doppler, called Andante and Rondo. And every flutist you would talk to would know this. Mm. And I asked Schott if they could perhaps look in their archives, not for the letters, but for the music, and if this sonata would be there. And it was there. Mm-hmm. It means that we had 2 more movements for a piece, which we knew, but we didn't know as a sonata. So I have published it, I have recorded it, and it's a great success. And it's a beautiful piece, and I have no idea whatsoever why he decided. And he decided because I have here is the first page of the music, and here he says, of this piece, I only want to publish the 2 last movements and call it Andante and Rondo, but without explanation. And when you hear it, it's difficult to understand why, because it's a good piece, but it's a real piece of music with 4 movements. And that's interesting because all the other pieces that we know for 2 flutes and piano, they are paraphrases on operas or well-known songs or something, or Hungarian themes. But this is a sonata, like, I don't compare it to Brahms, but like Brahms would have composed a sonata. Mm-hmm. And I also found in the beginning of my career a double concerto of these 2, or it was written only Franz Doppler, which also was a concerto for big orchestra, 3 movements, so another real music piece. So that my interest has led me to nice discoveries. And on this CD, you can hear most of these pieces first time performed in modern times, so to say, a premiere. Yeah. Since then, now, because I don't want to keep these things to myself, I publish them. They are played many times all over the world, and people are happy. Flutists are happy to get new pieces. And the public probably also to listen to new pieces. Yeah.
As my first exposure,
yes,
to Doppler, I was just delighted at what good music it is.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's always charming, and it's always pleasant, and it's happy music. Many times colored by Hungarian al-Ungarese phrases, because they loved Hungary and they had lived in Hungary for many years. And this is, if it interests you, why I have a special feeling about them. Because I found out that they had lived in Hungary, they had moved from Hungary, they were flutists, and like a musician, a little bit like myself. I was in Hungary, I moved from Hungary, I'm a musician, I'm a flutist, but they were much more because they were also conductors and composers. But my interest was awakened by this similarity or parallel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Are there technical issues that come about with the evolution of the flute itself since they were composed? Are there issues to confront with what kind of instrument you play them on?
Well, I like to research. I like to read about Baroque music, about the music, about the instruments of the time, but I'm not the person who is playing these instruments. So I don't know what the flute of these brothers would sound like. Of course, I have heard recordings, but who knows what they sounded like. But what I have, and which is very interesting, is that I have the flute of Carl Doppler.
Wow.
This is the flute of Carl Doppler. And it was kept in the family of Carl Doppler in Stuttgart, and the family gave it to me. And what is interesting is that this flute, that the lowest note, which is here, it is quite long, and the lowest note is an A. And today, flutes go down to B. Many flutes only go down to C. And in some of the music that we play on the Discovery record, he asked for a low A. So he must have used this flute or a similar flute when he composed it. Fortunately, he knew that not everybody had it, so he gives alternative notes to play if you don't have this, but he doesn't write an octave higher, he writes a different note in the same harmony.
Okay.
Very clever.
Mm-hmm.
And
so just so I'm sure I understand, I
can continue because I came a little early to talk about the flute of then, because you want probably to know something about the flute now. And now we all play on a Böhm flute. Theobald Böhm was a German goldsmith, and he was a flutist, and he was a flute builder at the same time. And he made a revolution. He created a cylindrical flute with a conical head. Until then, all the heads were conical, or cylindrical, but the instrument was conical. So he discovered how to make a flute which could sound loudly and also in tune. And this was something horribly difficult on the old flutes. Of course, good flutists achieved it, but I think only very few of them. And the Böhm flute goes to the C or to the B. And this is one difference, which is technically, of course, technically, everything has become easier because the fingering of the Böhm flute is much easier than on this flute, which was built by Ziegler in Vienna, probably in the 1870s. So he may not have played this flute all his life, but probably something similar.
Okay, that's wonderful. Is that made of ebony?
This is, the head is ebony, and the flute has even two heads. And the persons who gave it to me, the family of Carl Doppler, was his grandson. And I met this grandson. He was a retired violin player. And when we talked about his grandfather, he knew nothing. He had never heard a note of his grandfather.
Wow.
And then he said, we have no music, but we have his flutes. He said it in plural. And I asked, could I perhaps see it? And they brought me the flutes. It was one flute and another head joint, two head joints. That was the flutes. They had never looked. And
wow.
later he found some music. But the problem is with the ebony, I think you can see it here, that it cracks.
Yes.
And both heads are cracked. So it cannot be played otherwise, only if I would have restored it, but I don't restore it because then it's not original anymore. Perhaps I could use another head, but I'm a little afraid.
Right.
One day I will ask for a Ziegler flute, a copy, and then try to play on that. Yeah.
Of the two brothers,
yes.
Did they produce a similar quantity of works, or did Carl?
No, the older brother was Franz.
Franz.
He was born in 1821, and the younger brother was Carl. He was born in 1825.
Okay.
And we will know a little about why Franz started to play the flute, because he wrote his autobiography and he writes how he started. But why then the younger brother also played the flute, we don't know. But often children imitate each other. And apparently they were both equally good. And at one point of their lives, and they were both first flute in the Vienna Philharmonic, in the Vienna Opera. So not that the younger brother was not as good and had to play second flute to his first brother, but they alternated. They were both first flutes. Very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
And there, Karl was not, I think he was a good composer as well, but he was not as productive as was his older brother. Franz is the better known composer, and because he has written much more. And they didn't, both of them, they didn't only write flute music. And Karl wrote most of his flute music together with Franz. How this worked, I don't know, but they are always published under both names. But sometimes, even if they are published under the name of Franz only, Franz gave half of his salary, which he received from the editor, he sent to Karl. We know it from his diaries, which means that probably they had also written those together, but I don't know why Franz published them under his name. And they wrote operas and vaudevilles and ballet music, and they considered this lyrical music to be much more worth than their flute music. They didn't care too much for the flute music which they had written in their youth, and only really for their own pleasure. But the operas were played many years with great success in many opera houses in big cities.
That's fascinating.
Yes, today we know nothing.
Yeah.
And this is, if I would have a second life, I think I would promote those. Yeah.
Yeah, there's such a tremendous volume of 19th century opera, and even into the 20th century, that's just not performed.
Yeah, and only the same pieces always are performed. Yeah. Too bad. And this is a little bit the same with the flute music. That's why I have been searching and finding and recording and publishing. But it's easier to do it with flute music than with operas.
Yeah, that would make sense. So is there much more to be published?
Flute music, I am not the only one who's searching. I have a colleague, a Spanish flutist, who has made a lot of recordings with things he has found. Unfortunately, he has only recorded them and not published, so I am not quite sure whether it is worth or not to be played, but we can listen to it when he's playing it. And I have small things still in the drawer, which I will put out one day, but I'm not quite sure about their quality, so I think only the good things should be published. Yeah.
Sure.
And if they didn't publish them, there could have been a reason. Perhaps he thought about his sonatas first two movements, they were not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For him, for us, they are good enough. Yeah.
Are there any of the pieces that you recorded that you'd like to talk about, that you especially liked, or are there anything unusual or anything you'd like to call attention to in any of them?
Well, I'm very glad and happy to have found this in the house, also in Stuttgart. This is the Double Concerto. And this is a very special piece, and played very, very often all over the world by the flutists, because it is good, and this is something that we don't have. We need this kind of music. And it was a very funny story, because I approached this grandson in Stuttgart. It was in 1900 and let's say 69, perhaps. Mm-hmm. It's a long time ago. And as I told you, they wrote me back, we don't know anything, we don't have anything, I am the grandson, and goodbye, so to say. And I didn't really want to have connection, but I was stubborn, and I knocked at the door, and I went to them, and we got really good friendship between us. And one day I came back, and then he had been somewhere in a cupboard, and he had found a lot of music, Most of it was his father's music, who had also been a composer, and flute music, this concerto with all the parts and a lot of second flute parts, which means Carl has always been the second flute, but only because he was the younger. Yeah. And then I published what I could, and they were also very happy, and they listened to the music, and yeah, they discovered the family's music.
That's wonderful.
So this concerto, I think, is one of the most special ones. Yeah. And I can show you, I am still publishing the Andante and Rondo, by the way, which is a sonata, was my first published music, was Musica Rara. Then I started to publish for Biodot, Rigoletto Fantasy, one of his most well-known pieces. And now Schott has the sonata. And I have pieces which had never been published before, published by a Danish publisher, Switzer edition, which makes beautiful music, and the flutist should know about because it's worthwhile. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm promoting.
Very good. Well, I was going to ask what your upcoming projects are, but you just answered that question pretty much.
Yes, yes. But you have also asked me a question which is quite funny, is that you knew about the name of Doppler from somewhere else.
Right.
And that's true. The Doppler effect was discovered by an Austrian physicist who was somewhat older than the brothers. And we all know this. This is a physical phenomena which everybody know, because we don't know that it's the Doppler effect. But when a car engine approaches us, it has a higher pitch than when it goes away.
Exactly. Yeah.
The ambulance, and when it turns around the corner, it's a different pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Doppler effect, and I call the music of my Dopplers the musical effects of the Dopplers.
Okay. And
funny enough, there's another Doppler which is very important in Austria, because this is the denomination of a bottle which contains 2 liters.
Okay.
This is a Doppler.
Okay.
And I found it at home.
And of course, after you drink a bottle of that, then you can perform the Doppelganger, the Schubert song.
That's right.
Which is not to be confused with the Dopplerganger.
No, not really. But do you know about Schubert? It is also funny that Franz Doppler, was the first flutist ever to perform in public the Schubert variations, which is our main piece in the flute repertoire from the Romantic period. So he was a serious musician. He didn't only play salon music, as we call it.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, it's really fascinating. It really is.
Also interesting, perhaps, for you to know that I have tried to promote the Doppler's music, not only by publishing and by playing or recording, but also by concerts I have arranged. And the first one was in Japan, on the very day of his 100th, the commemoration of the 100th, when his dead returned the 100th time. In 1983, because he died in 1883. And then we had another concert in Munich, where, I don't know if you can read it.
Yes, it's very clear.
What is nice is that you always see 2 flutists with the same name. And this is what I wanted, but I didn't find brothers who played the flute. So I found couples.
Oh, nice.
And the biggest flutists like De Bost, Bennett, Larieux, Nicolet, they were all married to flutists, and myself. So we could make a concert all together.
Oh, that's lovely.
And Rampal joined us.
Oh, that's lovely. Very
That's
nice.
special. Yeah. So, and the last one was also in Japan, a commemoration of Doppler and Theobald Böhm in '94.
And whom did you say?
Theobald Böhm,
Okay.
who made the Böhm flute.
Okay.
Yeah, we all play Böhm flutes. Yeah, and it was Theobald Böhm's 100th anniversary, and it was 111 of Doppler.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
What can I more tell you? I can tell you you can see the members of this concert where all the families, the couples played.
Okay. That's wonderful.
And also, I have been working on something interesting. That's to get the grave of Franz Doppler, which is in the Central Cemetery in Vienna, to be taken over by the city, so it becomes an honorary grave. So it will always stay there, and the city will take care of. It was quite difficult, and I wrote to the mayor, and I had the support of many flute associations, and the Wiener Philharmonic wrote a letter, and the university which former school Doppler had been professor at, they wrote a letter, and it happened, and this is the grave. And on the 200th anniversary of Franz, we were there to celebrate it. And I, together with a pupil, played a little music of his own on his grave.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's lovely, yeah.
So this is what I am occupied with in the Corona times.
Okay, well, that's a wonderful project. I've only been to Vienna once, and the Central Cemetery was the first place I went. I landed and I went right there.
Yeah,
so.
But you visited some different composers.
Yes, that's true.
Next time,
Next time I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I remember you could stand in one place and see Hugo Wolf and the bunch of Strausses, and
it's a great place to walk around. Yes.
Yeah, it's an amazing place. It's better than Père Lachaise, I think.
I think so too. Yes.
Yeah, for music lovers.
Yes, yes. I also wanted to show you some recordings. My first recording that I did was for Denon, Nippon Columbia. And this has also Doppler on it, you see? So I have been quite a lot. Look at me.
Okay.
And then
you have not changed at all.
Thank you very much. Only I don't use the glasses anymore. Yeah. And then with Rampal, I recorded the Double Concerto. And here I show him the Doppler flute.
Oh, okay.
And we also recorded the Rigoletto Fantasy. So I have done something.
Yes, I would say, yes.
Yeah. But I have enjoyed it a lot.
Well, that's wonderful.
That's wonderful, yes.
That's, I think, the most important thing. Forgive me if you've already mentioned this, but new CDs in the pipeline coming along?
New CDs have to be recorded first. I have not recorded anything since. This was my last recording, but I have ideas, and I can start a little further away, because why did I make so much research for music that I have recorded and played and published? Not only Doppler, but Doppler is one special part of it, because I don't know if you are aware of this, but the flute has not the best and the biggest, no, the best repertoire. It has one of the biggest repertoires. We have catalogs it says more than 10,000 titles for flute. Yes, yes, but most of it, 99%, is, can I say bad? I would say not so good music.
Okay, okay.
So I have tried, and the flutists, they always play the same pieces. And I have tried to get us more literature and perhaps better literature. With the more, yes, I have found many pieces and good pieces, but I have to say that no masterpiece has been lost.
Okay.
But they are good pieces and people can play them and they can enjoy them and the public enjoys them too. They can also be used for pedagogical reasons. If you don't want to record Mozart and Mozart or play Mozart and practice Mozart, then there are De Vienne and other composers who can bring you on the path towards Mozart, or Baroque music that can bring you to Bach, or romantic music that can bring you to Schubert. So you don't spoil the big pieces by always having to practice them and nothing else. And so this is why I have done so. And your question was, because why did I start now to talk about the research?
Well, I had asked about upcoming CDs, I think.
Yes, okay. And that's why many of my CDs, well, I have recorded, fortunately, I have had a chance to record all the big pieces. But when it was over, I really wanted to show other flutists what I had found. And one thing is to find music, other thing is to ask composers to write. I have done that too. New pieces, perform them. Unfortunately, many times it's a first and last performance when you premiere them.
Right.
But we hope that they will be discovered later. And the third thing is to make arrangements. And I, in my wanting to play good music, I have always thought the best music I know is or are the Goldberg variations by Bach. And it is for harpsichord, but there are many arrangements and good arrangements also for string players, but no one for wind players. So I have made my own arrangement, and this is my biggest wish, to get a chance to record it for flute, 2 oboes, 2 bassoons. Because string players can play all the music 3 persons, because they can play double stops. But there are often 5 voices, so we need 5 instruments.
Right.
And I hope next time we talk, this has been.
It will be that about that recording.
Yes, this is my biggest project, so to say.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. It's funny. I remember when I was in conservatory, so many people were so unadventurous about finding things to play. You know, the singers would just sing the same pieces. I remember the Berg Sieben Frühe Lieder, or the year I was there, it was the year of the Berg Sieben Frühe Lieder. Everybody was singing it. It's like, you know, there's other stuff too, you know.
Yeah. So I know you understand me.
And all you really have to do is go into a library for, you know, to look around.
Yes, but you have to have time. You have to have the passion to sit and look. Yeah. And many things I didn't find in libraries. Many things I found in music antique shops.
Right.
Every time I landed in a new city where I had some concerts, the first steps, my first aim was to go to find the shop where they had music.
Nice.
And then look through, and many things I bought without knowing for what. But later, one day, I could use them. And now there are no more music shops. This is also a big loss, because you don't find anything if you don't, when you search, you find. But if you search for a special thing, then you don't find anything, because then you only get what you search for. Yeah?
Yes, that's absolutely true.
I could look through and then suddenly, I saw something. That's impossible on the internet. You need a shop or a library.
Yeah. No, it's a wonderful point. Yeah. There are no, in New York City, there aren't really music stores anymore.
There behind Carnegie Hall. What was the name, or is it still there?
Adelson's it was.
Is it still there?
No, like
Doesn't
10, 15 years ago it went away.
It was a fantastic shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also books I found there.
Yeah. No, it's hard to believe it's gone. It was such a staple of New York musical life, you know.
Yeah, and there's no other one. There's no replacement.
No, nothing like it. No, I understand that there's still like Carl Fischer, and there's some publishers that if you call, you can go. Yeah. And they have small retail operations, but there's nothing like that where you can walk in and.
Yeah, that's sometimes that's the thing that we have sometimes flute festivals and or conventions, and there many of these publishers come with their music, and there is a possibility, because when you go to Fischer, probably you only see music edited by Fischer.
Yes.
By Fischer. But in these festivals, they are next to each other, and there you can find things. Yeah.
With enthusiasts, as they say.
So is.
Yeah. So, well, I think we've done a good job.
I hope so.
Yeah. Unless they're
for you to judge it, and I am very happy and very glad that I have been able to talk to you and to be presented on your channel. And I hope that you will have flutists looking and getting interested and curious, and perhaps then finding Doppler, but not only Doppler, through our conversation.
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope people, of course, find your CD, and it's just such a delightful release.
I can only recommend it.
Okay, it's wonderful.
Also because of my partner, Emmanuel Payou, whom everybody knows, and who is wonderful player, wonderful person. And I had so much luck that he agreed to do it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It's a wonderful recording.
I have seen already some of your other interviews, very interesting, even though they are not talking about flute, but they mostly talk about music, and that's much more important than flute. And I wish that every flutist also will think the same way, that music is first, and we are just serving music by playing our instrument.
What a wonderful thing to say, really. Terrific. Well, I can't thank you enough for giving us your time too. So
I hope I meet you live one day.
Yes, I hope so too. Hope to meet you too. Okay. So I can't thank you enough, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay. It's a real pleasure. Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
You're welcome.